Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Gordon Chesapeake here as always. In this video, this is actually going to be a little bit different from what we have been doing so far. We're going to learn how we can communicate with a backend so that we can send like post requests and then have responses sent back to our React Native application and show that to the user. For this use case, specifically for this video and in a couple more videos, I'm going to use a Python backend with FastAPI, and that will be using some kind of retrieval augmented generation for some large language model related stuff. AI is really just growing a lot these days, and I wanted to include some of that in our learning as well. So I have a Python backend that's already set up, and I'm going to send requests to the backend. It's kind of like a chatbot kind of thing that we are building right now. And once my request is sent from my React Native application to the backend, it's going to send the response back from AI. So this is specifically looking at some kind of documentation, and I will walk you through what is happening in the video. But right now, just as a demo, we're going to ask a question from the chatbot, what is task decomposition, and then send it. And that's going to display here, and then we're going to get the response back. Similar experience on iOS as well, so I'm just going to send the same question, and then we'll wait while it's loading, and then it's just going to show the result back to us. Keep in mind that right now I'm not doing any streaming of the response that we are getting. It's just getting the whole thing and displaying it at once. In another video I'll also walk you through how you can stream the response back so that as it is being generated in the backend, you can kind of send it chunk by chunk and show it to the user, like what you see in ChatGPT or other AI generated chatbots these days. So with that, let's get started. So I'm going to walk you through the Python code that we have here. It's not the main focus of this video, so I'm just going to do it real quick. If you want me to spend more time on this kind of thing, though, let me know in the comment box below the video. But here I have a FastAPI kind of project structure. I have my main.python file where I'm just like kind of using to call the actual app API Python file. So I'm gonna go there, and in the API Python file I am taking care of the endpoints that we have. I have a get just like a simple root endpoint for testing, and then I have a post for chatbot endpoint that we will be using to send our questions from the React Native side to the backend, this Python setup that we have here. The code that I have in terms of RAG or Retrieval Augmented Generation, this whole thing is coming from the LangChain's Quickstart, the Python Quickstart that they have. It's a simple RAG that you're kind of like getting information from like this website, and then showing the result based on the question asked to the user. So I have a little bit of FastAPI set up here, though you have to also do on your end just adding a middleware to allow course and then making sure you can receive requests from the other ports or the other websites in your application. Other than that, just make sure you have your OpenAI API key, which you can get from platform.openai.com, I believe. And then once you have that, I have it added in my .env file. So that's how I'm loading the file and then reading it using the .env Python package that I have imported. All the packages, by the way, are in the requirements.txt file, and you can just easily pip install everything in there. And the rest of it, as you can see here, everything is just copy paste from the LangChain Quickstart. In this code over here, they have more explanation. So if you really want to read about this, they have some go deeper sections that they explain everything. And after my actual chain that I have here, I have defined some models just to make sure that the query that I send has the proper structure. So what we'll send, there will be an input field, and inside that I have a question which includes the actual question. And this is because if you're doing a more complicated RAG, you will need to have access to chat history. If you're doing some, for example, tracing with Langsmith, you want to keep track of some metadata, conversation ID for your conversation, and so on and so forth. So that's why I have these extra models over here. But for our case, we could have just relied on to just a simple string coming from the React Native side. So I'm just gonna test these real quick. For my GET request, I'm using Rapid API client extension in VS Code. You can use whatever you want, Postman, anything that you want. And then I'm sending the request to the port 800, and we need to make sure that we actually run our Python code. So Python main.py, you see that code uvicorn is running on the port 8000. And I'm going to send a GET request there once the application startup is complete. And you can see that I get the hello world here. And that's what we had over here just as a test. For this chatbot, we can actually send a question there. So we're just going to use the same question that they have in their example over here. This one, what is task decomposition? So remember, it has to be under input question. So if I create a post request to chatbot and then look at the JSON body that I'm sending, I have input, I have question, and then this is my question that I'm sending. So if I do that, you should see the question printed out here, and that's what we had over here to print that out. And that's actually exactly what we are asking. And then our result over here, our response is 200 OK. And as you can see, this is probably very similar to what they have over here. So that's a quick rundown of our Python code. Like I said, this is not our focus. What we're gonna do, we're gonna use this post endpoint and send our request from React Native client side, and then send that question over here. This will run the chain that we have for our RAG procedure, and then it'll send back the answer to us, and then we'll receive it on the React Native side and then display it to the user. Alright, let's take a quick look at the React Native application part of things. So this is the front end, this is the starting point, and I'm going to put a link to the GitHub repo for this in the description box below the video as well. And this is basically what I built in another video, and I put a link to that video as well, where we have Expo router, our tailwind, CSS, everything is configured here. And so right now what I have is 3 screens, bottom tab screens. It's kind of nested routing. So I have the drawer, and then I have bottom tab navigation. For the bottom tab navigation, I have a screen called chat, and that's what we will be working on. The code for that, since again it's Expo router, under app router tabs and the chat.tsx file. Nothing super fancy. I do have a few lines of logic here where I am handling this tap on this little chat box over here, especially for iOS, and pushing it up because that's not provided out of the box. And again, I have a video on that. I put a link to that up here as well, so you can go take a look at that. But the code is already here. So everything that we need at this point for a chat application. Just the UI is kind of set up, so I can, for example, start typing here, and then when I hit the send, you can see that by default it's kind of disabled. I can't click on it or tap on it, and then once I start typing, it gets enabled, and then when I hit send, it's gonna go real fast. It has a like activity indicator here, and then it's just gonna super fast, it's gonna go away. So that's what I have here. I'm not doing any kind of state management right now here to add that chat up here in the chat panel over here, but that's what we're gonna do next. And right now all it does is kind of like handling the logic for this chat message, sending it, and basically that's about it. If I, for example, comment this here, set sending chat false, comment that out, and then I start typing while we are kind of like sending things to the backend, it's gonna be kind of showing this loading animation here, and once we get the result back, it's gonna show here, and that's gonna stop basically going back to this default state. So for that, I'm bringing this back over here. So if I refresh my server, restart my server, go to chat, it's all back to the original state. Just a quick run through here. We have a state to keep track of what's being typed in the chat box over here, and then this is again related to the text input height, and I've explained it in my other video. Go check that out. We have the sending chat and set sending chat, which is basically what I just explained to you. While we are sending the data to our backend Python FastAPI over there and waiting for the result to come back, I'm going to show that loading state over here, and that's basically what this is used for. Right now this handle submit is not doing much, just clearing the text over here and then going through the process of sending it, making that loading indicator, and then setting that eventually false. We do have a to-do here, which is the main part of this video that we'll be looking into, and that's communicating with the backend, the Python code that we talked about, and I think that should explain most of the starting code that I already have. So with that, let's get to the actual part of adding sending messages, adding them to this section over here, and then getting the result from the backend and displaying that to the user in this interface over here. So before we get into more details of handling our front-end side of the code and communicating with the backend and all that, I want to answer this question that why do we actually need this backend anyway? Because if we go to the LangChain website, they also have a JavaScript SDK that you can use, and you can actually use most of that client side, and you might not need an actual backend. But this is not the best practice, and it's not really secure, because you will be having, for example, you'll have like your OpenAI API key, and when you're using like LangSmith and other kind of like LLMs, different models, you might have some other API keys that you need to actually make sure they are safe and secure. And if you add them in your client-side code, it's gonna just be shipped to for example, with this React Native stuff, it can be extracted from the bundle that you will put on the Apple or Google stores. So it's not really secure, and you could actually have a Node.js backend, and you probably will find a lot of resources over there at LangChain website as well. But at this point, I feel like the Python backend is more robust and you can do much more with that. So that's why I went the Python route, and FastAPI obviously is a very popular Python framework that you can use for communicating between front end and back end. And so that's why we want to make sure that our front end logic and back end logic is kind of clearly separated, and you can do a lot of these things kind of like with Node.js as well, as I mentioned, but that's up to you. If you want to do that, no problem. And this is just how I feel like it's more robust doing it in Python code. Alright, let's get to the next section now. So first things first, we need to keep track of our conversation state. So I'm going to add a new state over here. Let's call that conversation, and this is typical in any generative AI application that you build. You want to have a role for each chat or each message, as well as the content of that message. So for example, for a message that I am sending to AI, that's a human message, and then what is coming back from the in case of our situation here, what's coming back from the Python code, our chatbot, that will be an AI message. So the role is either like human or AI, and content is going to be the message that we display on this screen over there. Next thing is when we add our chat message over here, so we had this pressable element over here, which is this little icon with the surrounding element around it. So that's going to, for the onPress, we have a handle submit over here, and the function is defined here. So what it does right now is setting the state of sending chat to true. So we're sending the chat, it's going to show a loading indicator, and then it's going to close the keyboard, and then we're going to make sure that that message is not empty, and then once this is all satisfied, we set the chat message over here to an empty string, because we are now going to show the chat message that we sent up here, and then get the answer from backend, and then show that response also below the message that we just displayed over here. So for the conversation that we are keeping track of, we're going to here keep track of the message that we sent. So right here, maybe before we set that chat text to a string, to an empty string, we are going to say I have a new human message. The content is the message value, which is basically the chat text coming from the text input. To keep track of the value of the text input. And then since we are going to need this message later on, and then we are setting it to an empty string, I'm storing it into another variable, and I'm using that variable instead for the content of the message that was sent by human, or what we sent to the backend, and then or the user basically. And then I'm going to set my conversation, what we just defined up here, the state over there. So I'm going to grab whatever I had before, the previous chats, the previous, not chat, like the previous messages that we had, and then add the new message that was added from here just by clicking the send over here. The message that was typed here is going to be added to that conversation, and we'll see that in action soon. That's the logic part of setting the state, and now we need to actually display the conversation in the UI over here. So we're gonna get rid of this placeholder that we had, and I'm gonna just paste some code here right now. We'll look at this right now. So what's happening is that I'm saying if I have a conversation, so the state that we have over here, and then we are adding the human message over here, and later on we'll add the AI message to that. If we have something there, I want to show this, show something in here. If it's a message from AI, the role that we talked about is AI, then I want it to be on the left side. Basically, we are separating these two so that messages from human will be on this right side and the AI will be on the left side. And some other things like the human message will have a different background color. It will have like an avatar in case you have a picture of the user you'll put there. I'm just gonna put like their just like initials over here for now. And then for the AI, which will be on the left side, I'll just show like a bot using like a font awesome icon and the message that we get from AI. So that's the whole idea behind that. So if the message role is AI, I'm gonna set everything to the justify start, which will be to the left of the screen. And then I'm going to add this font awesome Android kind of icon, whatever you want, like mimicking a bot or something. You can actually use that. I'm going to bring in font awesome package that we have up here. And so that takes care of that error that we had here. So this is think of it as an icon for a bot, and then after that we're going to show the message.content, which, if you remember, that's the actual text that we get from the conversation that we get from AI from our backend. And if that's not an AI, if the role is not AI, we know that's going to be a human role, and we added that here. So that's the message that we send. That's going to be kind of pushed to the end. So justify end will be on the right side. And then I assign like background of red to it, and the text inside is going to be the message dot content, again similar to what we had for AI. And then for avatar, I'm using this avatar component from React Native Elements. So let's see, I don't have that installed yet, so I'm going to actually install that now. So looking at their website, React Native Elements over here, we actually need to add these two RNE UI base and React Native Element UI themed. So I'm just going to copy those, and in a new terminal right over here in my React Native application, I am going to do npx expo expo install those two, and then that should be enough to add them to our package.json file. We have that right there, and then now that error is gone, I can close this one over here. So we will have the avatar component from React Native Elements, and this is going to basically just show in initials Gordon Chesapeake GC over here, and we'll see how it looks. So let's save that, and with this we should be able to see that the message, that the placeholder that we had here is gone now. If I start typing, for example, just nonsense, and then hit send, that's gonna show up here. So like I said, for the human message, we're showing it on the right side. Same for Android, this shouldn't be any different. So I send it, and it's gonna show up here, and you saw that the text message actually was set to an empty screen. and that's what we empty string. English is hard. And that's what we did here, set the chat text to empty screen. So this is the first part, showing the message that we get from the user typed here, over here. And now the second step is to send this to our backend. So remember when we had a post request over here, when we did with this Rapid API client over here, or you can do with Postman, as I said. The format of the post request that we send to the backend, it should look like this. So what I'm gonna do, we can use the fetch API in React Native as well. Right now, we are focusing on just getting back the response and display it at once to the user. We are not streaming back anything from backend to the front end and like stream the message from AI over here. For that, we need to install a few more packages, and that's something I will talk more about in the next video. But right now, all we want to do is just send the request to the backend and get the response and just display it at once to the user. So that is nothing very complicated. What we have here, we're gonna do a try and catch over here. So I'm gonna do try catch statement, and then I have this fetch request that I'm going to send to my backend, and so this whole thing now needs to be async, because we have a wait over here, and then we need to wait for the response from the backend. The backend URL right now, like we did over here, is gonna be this guy over here. So I can have that as environment variable, or anything that you're comfortable with. Right now, I'm just putting it up here in my functional component. But when you host your backend Python code, I don't know, in Heroku or anywhere, you would probably want to have it as like an environment variable. So over here for your React Native, so you can kind of like, or Expo project, so you can save it as secrets in the Expo application services. And if that URL changes, then you don't have to come and fix the code and like push an update or anything. So right now I'm just like hard coding over here, and that's my local machine, port 800, which was where we are running the server, our API over here. With that fetch request, we get a response back over here. And by the way, this conversation ID, this is something that you might want to add when you're like having a tracing mechanism like Langsmith with LangChain, and to keep track of the conversations. But for now, I'm just gonna make a string out of it, because we're having just one conversation and we're not sending anything or tracing any conversation. And then again, as I mentioned before, chat history is here. For now, we don't use it because we're not trying to use the chat history in our RAG procedure. It's just like one question and answer. So there is no chat history. But if in case you needed that, you can keep track of all the conversation over here and send the previous messages along with the new message that the user types and sends to the backend. And then with the backend logic, you incorporate the chat history as well to get the proper response from your LLM, and then send it back over here. But like I said, right now we're not sending that. So we have the response here, and then we need to grab that response and then display it to the user. So If the response is okay, we're gonna do just a little bit of simple logic here, nothing too complicated. This is just JavaScript and not really related to any AI or anything specific here. If the response is okay, we're just gonna do response as JSON, and this is going to return us the basically the response that we get from AI. I'm console logging that here as well. We want to make sure to add that as a new message with a role of AI to our conversation, and that's what's happening here. And in case if we don't get a response of okay, we're handling that over here. We also do have a catch statement here, and for that we just make sure that if for any reason our fetch API has some problems like internet connection, whatever, we catch that over here and we display that as an alert to the user. And then in this case we want to set the chat message, the chat text, back to what it was. That's one of the reasons before I set the chat text to an empty string, I save that as this variable message value. And this is a good user experience. So they type something, you hit send, and then you display the message over here. And then you probably want to, if there is an error, connection error or anything else, you want to display that message back over here and probably get rid of what you pushed over here. So there might be some more logic here that you want to do to remove the latest human message from the conversation as well. But with that, I think the last thing that we need to really do is just set sending chat to false, and then just keyboard dismiss as well. I believe we already did that somewhere, but yeah, we probably don't need this. So you just want to set sending chat to false, meaning that it's already sent, we got the result, and this was basically in charge of this send icon over here. Instead of showing this send icon, it would just show a loading indicator, and when it's false it goes back to this. So let's see, we can save what we have now. I'm going to refresh both my iOS and Android simulator and emulator over here. We should be ready to test the application and see what happens. So make sure that our backend is running, and I have a print statement here. So once I get the question sent over here, I should be able to see something here, and then once I come back here, the response is sent. In addition to seeing the response over here, I need to also see that yes, console log over here. So I'm having that as well, so you will see that over here as well. So let's do this. Here we're going to look at what they had in the documentation, the simple question that they asked, what is task decomposition? And so with that, I'm going to just paste it over here and then send it. It's sending, it's getting the request back, response back, and that's the response. And as you saw, it just showed all at once. We didn't stream anything, and that was basically what we were trying to do. Same thing in Android. You'll see that when I hit this send, it's gonna bring my message over here, and then the loading indicator is gonna be showing to the user until we get the response back and show it to the user over here, and this will go back to the original state. So see this loading, and boom, the answer is here, and that's back to normal. So you could potentially go ahead and ask another question. Just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to ask the same question, but again, keep in mind that we are not adding any chat history over here, so it's just going to use our message. And again, you would see the message also printed out, console log that we had here. Everything is logged over here. For the backend, we also see that the question that we sent over is being printed out over there. I can just send the same thing again, and we should get the same response, so nothing different. Or I can just send something very irrelevant, so it could be like, who's the president of the United States, and send it back. I actually don't know what it's gonna give me back. I do not know the current president of the USA, so probably makes sense because the RAG procedure that we have here, it's looking at this specific website to get its information, and that answer is not there. So it seems like it actually working fine. Again, we're not streaming anything back. That will be what we'll be covering in the next video, but at least at this point we can kind of like have a conversation with a backend AI and display it on our React Native side, as you saw over there. Alright, if you liked the video, please make sure to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and you can share this video if you really liked it. I really appreciate it, and I will be creating more of these kind of videos, so hopefully you like it, and turn the notification bell on as well, so you're notified once I put those videos up. Thank you very much, and I'll see you later.